Yeah, fine. Good guys. So in the last session, we understood what is user details in the Spring Security and what is Auth Manager, and we discussed about OAuth. What is the purpose of OAuth? If you want to secure your application based on the accounts available in the third-party applications, then we can go for OAuth. So today we are going to understand another security technique that is called JWT. So we are going to understand JWT security as part of this session. First, let's understand what is JWT and how JWT is going to work. And for the coding part, what we need to do to integrate JWT in our Spring Boot application. Coding part is not easy in the JWT. In the OAuth, there is nothing that we are writing in the code. Everything is configuration based. But in the JWT, lot of code we need to write. Even I can't remember that code. A lot of classes we need to create. Lot of code we need to create. First, let us try to understand the concept of what is JWT, how it is going to work. I will take one existing application and I will show you how JWT security working in that application. Then we will see what are the classes available in that project and what is the logic available in the project. We cannot by heart the code available in the JWT security because lot of lines of code we have to write for that. Fine. So first let us see what is JWT. The first step, JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens. JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens. This JWT is used to secure our web applications. JWT is used to secure our web applications. JWT is very famous security technique currently using in the market. In IT industry now, in software industry, JWT is very famous security technique. Currently in most of the application, this is JWT security technique they are using. When we go for JWT, first we need to understand JWT stands for JSON Web Token. That JSON Web Token is used to secure our web application. In software industry, JWT is very famous security technique. Before going to see that, let us access the official website of JWT. Okay, JWT token. There is a website called jwt.io. That website will provide the documentation for JWT. JSON Web Tokens are an open industry standard method for representing claims securely between two parties. JWT.io website will allow you to decode, verify, and generate a JWT token. When we go for JWT, a token will be generated like this. In this token, if you observe, some alphanumeric characters are available. And if you see, in this token, there are 3 colors available. So complete token contains alphanumeric characters, but the token is divided into 3 parts. This is part 1, and this is part 2, and this is part 3. So here, every part is separated by a dot. The dot represents parts in the JSON token, JSON Web Token, JWT. In this JWT, first part is called as header. First part is called as header. The second part is called as payload. Third part is called as signature. So JWT token is divided into 3 parts. Every part is separated by a dot. So this is part 1. This is available in the red color. And this is part 2 available in the pink color. And this is part 3 available in the blue color. So we need to understand JWT token is divided into 3 parts. So for these 3 parts, there is a name. For every part, there is a name. The first part name is called header. The second part name is called as payload. Third part name is called as signature. Okay. So if you can generate a token from this website, if you already have a token, you can decode that token by giving this website, by using this website. So this is a token, sample token I have taken. When I give the sample token, it is decoding the token. It is giving me the details which are available in the token. If I remove the token, header part, payload part is also removed. Control Z. Now I'm pasting my token. If I paste the token, it is decoding. Header part is available, payload part is available, and signature part is available. Okay. In the header part, what they are using? Algorithm and token type. Header part contains algorithm and token type. This data they have encoded. This is the header part. Okay. So here in the header part, what they are mentioning, what is the algorithm and what is the token type. Algorithm we are using HS256 algorithm. The token type is JWT. Now coming to the payload. In the payload, we can keep any information what we want. They are keeping subject, right? And they are keeping the name and they are keeping some ID for that. You can keep any information in the payload, whatever you want, which is used to identify this token is generated for which client. Then here when it comes to signature, whatever the header is available, whatever the payload is available, we are concatenating the header and payload by encoding using base 64 and one secret text also we are keeping in the signature. So these are three parts of JSON token. JSON token is divided into three parts. What is the main purpose of this? If two applications want to communicate securely, then JSON web tokens will be used as a mediator to communicate, to establish communication between two parties. This is application 1, this is application 2. If one application wants to communicate with another application securely, then we are going for JWT tokens. So JSON stands for JWT stands for JSON web token, that is used to secure our web application. In the IT industry, currently this JWT is very famous security technique. JWT token is divided into three parts. JWT is divided into three parts. Okay, separated by dot. Separated by dot. What are those three parts, guys? What is part 1 in the token? Yes, the first one is header part. Second one is payload part. First one is header. Second one is payload. Third one is signature. In the header part, what is available? Type of the token and algorithm is available. In the payload, data, whatever the data that you want to keep. In the signature, header plus body plus secret. Body nothing but payload. Header plus payload plus some secret text is available. By combining all these three parts, one JSON token is generated. We can generate and decode JSON token by using one website called jwt.io. We can generate and we can decode JWT using jwt.io website. You can generate the token or you can decode the token also by using this jwt.io website. What is the main purpose of JWT? If you want to establish communication between two applications securely, then we can go for JWT token. Let's observe how this JWT token is going to work. Execution flow. So let me take application 1 and here application 2 is available. Okay. In this application, there is a method available, data. I want to get some data from another application. So this is app 1 and this is app 2. There are two applications available. application 1 and application 2. Application 1 want to access some data from the application 2. For that, there is a endpoint available that is called /data. This endpoint is secured by using JWT token. Whatever the endpoint is available, that endpoint is secured by using JWT token. Are you guys clear with my point? Yes. Application 1 and application 2. In the application 2, I have one method. That method URL pattern /data. That method is secured by using JWT. So if I want to access that method available in the application 2, I need the token. If I have the token, then only I can access that method. Otherwise, I cannot access that method. So how we can get that token? How can we access that method? So here, when we go for JWT, in this REST API, we are going to write one more method called authentication method. I'm going to write one more method with a name called authenticate. So first, my application 1 should send a request to authenticate method by using username and password, some credentials. For every client, I will provide some credential in order to access my application 2. Application 1 is your application. Application 2 is my application. If you want to access my application 2, first you need to send the request for authenticate method. There are two methods available. Authenticate method is available and data method is available. Data method, this is secured method by using JWT security. Assume that this method I have secured. This is secured method or secured operation. Instead of method, I can say operation. This is secured operation. You cannot access data directly because it is a secured operation. If you want to access data method, first you need to send your identity to my authenticate method. Identity nothing but I will give you some username and password. You send that username and password in the request for my authenticate method. My authenticate method will verify your username and password valid or not. Whatever username password you are sending to me for authentication, I will verify your username and password valid or not. If your username and password is valid, here I'm going to implement that validation logic. I will implement validate logic here. Validate your username and password. If your username and password is valid, then my application will generate one JWT token for you. If it is valid, then only one token will be generated for you. First, request came to authenticate method with username and password. This method will call another method to verify this logic is, this credentials are correct or not. If credentials are correct, then it is going to generate one JWT token with 3 parts: header, payload, and signature. When the JWT token is generated, I'm going to set expiry date. For the token, I will set expiry date or expiry time. So expiry date or expiry time I will set. Suppose if I set the time as 1 minute. If I set the expiry as 1 minute, so that means you are trying to authenticate your identity. Observe carefully. I told you the concept is very complex. Coding is more complex than theory. So first understand the concept. Coding is different. Application 1 is available. Application 2 is available. In the application 2, I have one method called data method. It is used to get some data from the application 2. But that method is not for everybody. That method is secured method. If you want to access that method, you need a token. How to get that token? To get the token, you need to send authentication request for the first method. In that request, you are going to send your username and password. It is going to verify your username and password valid or not. If your username password is valid, then it will generate one token. For every token, expiry date, expiry time will be available. For example, if I set expiry as 1 minute, within 1 minute, you have to use the token. After 1 minute, the token will expire. There is no use of that token. Now, once you send authentication request, your credentials will be validated. If the credentials are valid, then token will be generated. Then my application will send that token back to your application. You are sending username and password for authentication. Your username and password is valid. Then token got generated. You will get the token as a response. Once you get the token as a response, you have a time limit. What is the time limit? 1 minute. Some people may give only 30 seconds as a time limit. Within 30 seconds, you have to use the token. Otherwise, the token will expire. Got it? You got JWT token back to your application. Then immediately, you need to send a request to this data method along with the token. You need to send actual request with the token. Once you send actual request to the token, this secured operation is going to verify whatever the token that you have received. Is the token valid or not? Is the token expired or not? It is going to verify. If the token is valid, if the token is not expired, then only this method will provide response to the client. Otherwise, it will not provide response to the client. So if you want to secure your application by using JWT, this is the execution flow. There will be a method that is a secured method. You cannot access that secured method directly. If you want to access secured method directly, token is required. Who will give the token? Who will give the token? There is another method which is responsible to generate the token. Right. Let me give the numbering here so that you will get the clarity. First, client will send a request with username and password. That is number 1. Once the request is sent, then what will happen? That request credentials will be authenticated. Those credentials are valid or not. If credentials are valid, then what will happen? Token will be generated. For the token, we will set the time limit. For the token, we will set the time limit. That the token will expire in 1 minute of time. Now, once your credentials are valid, token is generated. Token will be sent back to the client. Whoever send the request for authentication, the request is authenticated, credentials are valid, token generated, token sent to the client. Then what client has to do now? Client has to send actual request with the token. Once the client send actual request to the method with the token, that the token will be validated. Is the token valid or not? Is the token expired or not? If the token is expired, request will not be processed. If token is valid and not expired, then only your request will be processed. Then you will get the response from the method. Look at the numbers. Client will send request for authentication, username and password. Once the request is authenticated, token will be generated with the expiry time and token will come back to the client application. Then client want to access actual method by sending a token. That means client has to send 2 requests here. One request is to get the token. Second request for the actual method. To access the actual method, token is required. To get the token, you should be authenticated with the first method. Authenticate method to generate the token. Data method is the actual method. In order to access the data method, token required. To get the token, first you need to send the request for authentication with the username and password. If it is authenticated, you will get the token. Once you get the token, send the another request along with the token. If the token is valid, request will be processed, then only you will get the response. So that is called JWT security, JSON Web Tokens. Same project, two methods. Yeah, these are two different projects. We will only give that. You are my client. I will give you one credentials. Some identity will be there. Identity in the signature, we are going to keep the identity. So you are saying that you will share your credentials with someone. We'll talk about that. App 1, this is called as client application. App 1 is called as a client application. App 2 is called as a server application, which will provide the services to other applications. Okay. So for your question, in the real time, there is a concept called IP whitelisting. There is a concept called IP whitelisting. That means in which server your client application will be deployed, you need to give IP address to server application. If a request comes with that particular IP, then only it will process, otherwise it will not be processed. IP whitelisting will be there. We can't implement that concept here. That is a networking concept. Firewall security will be there. Are you guys clear? So now data method is available. We need to access data method. Data method is secured method by using JWT. So in order to access the data method, you need a token. How to get the token? To get the token, first that should be authenticated. You need to provide your username and password for authenticate. It will verify your credentials are valid or not. If your credentials are valid, then token will be generated. The token will come as a response for the first request. Then you need to send second request along with the token. You need to send second request along with the token. If the token is valid, then only request will be processed. Otherwise, request will not be processed. Are you guys clear? Can we see one application for that? Yeah, let me take my existing application. Let me show execution flow of that. Guys, coding is little difficult to understand. Spring Boot security JWT application is available. Let me clone this. Git bash, git clone, URL. Yeah, I'm cloning security JWT application. I also copied this code from Google, guys. Yeah, I need to tell the fact. All right. Let me import this project into my IDE. File, import, existing project, browse, finish. Yeah, I have imported my Spring Boot security with JWT. First, we will run the application and we will see how it is working. In this application, I configured user details. you know what is user details now, which is used to load the user data. I have given hard-coded data, admin and admin 123. So these are my credentials for authentication purpose. Okay. Let me run this application and let me go for my REST controller. There is a method called authenticate method is available. This is the logic which is used to authenticate the credentials. If credentials are authenticated, token will be generated. We will get the token as a response. This is my authenticate method. And this is our actual method, which is a secured method. Now, let me run the project, refresh, run as boot application. Yeah, clear the console. Application started. Let me try to access a hello method. Localhost colon, what is the port number? 909 is not required. Default port number 8080. Refresh, right click, run as boot application. Go to console, clear the console. Now, localhost colon 8080 hello. There is a method available. Am I able to access the method? Not access. My URL problem or authentication problem? Forbidden. Boss, you are not authorized to access that method. 404 is different. 403 is different. What is the difference between 404 and 403? 404 means resource not found. That is client mistake. If I give wrong URL, if I give hellos, then let me access this. No, any URL which is going there, it is forbidden. You don't have access to that URL. Fine. Now I'm getting access denied. 403 forbidden. I'm getting access denied. Why access denied? Because it is a secured method. Secured method. What security available? JWT. I need a token. So I don't have a token. To get the token, there is another method called authenticate method. Binded to what request? Binded to post request. Okay. Let me go for postman. Let me send my credentials. Admin @123 are my credentials. Localhost colon 8080. Localhost colon 8080. Go for post request. URL pattern authenticate. Go for body. In the body, I need to send that request data, post request, username and password. So JSON data, username and password. I need to send username and password in order to access token. All right. So username is admin, which is hard coded by using user details service. Password admin @123. Clear, guys? Localhost colon 8080 authenticate. So username and password I have given. Now let me send the request. When I send the request, what is the response I'm getting, guys? What is the response I'm getting? I'm getting token as a response. You see here, I'm getting token as a response. In the token, part 1 is available, part 2 is available, part 2 is available, and part 3 is also available. What is the part 1? Part 1 is called as header. You can see this. This is my token. Yeah. This is the token. Header part is available. This is a header and this is payload and this is signature. Now I got the token. With this token, I need to access hello method. Okay. I need to send the token in the request. See here. That is a get request, get slash hello. Okay. Is it basic authentication or JWT authentication? JWT authentication. Go for authorization tab. Here for JWT token, we need to go for bearer token or JWT token. Anything is fine. Algorithm 256 secret is available. Here I'm going for bearer token. So whatever JWT token is available, we need to pass that token here. Whatever the token is available, we need to pass the token in the authorization header. What is the token type? I'm using bearer token. Suppose if I am not passing that token, let us send a request. When I send a request for that, what is the response I'm getting? What is the response I'm getting? 403 forbidden response I'm getting. Now go to authorization, go for bearer token. Let us pass our token here. Let us pass our token here. After passing this token, let me send the request. After passing the token, let me send the request. Am I able to get the response? Hello world. So that means my token is working or not. So first I am sending post request for authenticate method with username and password. If the username and password is valid, I configure that as a user detail service. If my username and password is valid, token got generated. Once the token generated, that is having some time limit. That a token sent to the client. Client application send the request along with the token as a authorization bearer token. The token will be verified. Is it valid or not? If the token is valid, then only request will be processed. Otherwise, request will not be processed. Are you clear? Good. Coding wise, lot of complex logic will be available. So if you see, this is the code which is used to generate the token. Okay. After this, to validate the token, again, we are having some other logic. And here, our security configuration is available. First, let's understand what are the classes that are created in this project before understanding that. Okay, first, theoretically, are you clear? What is the flow? Yes. Can anyone tell me what is the flow? I am having one REST API. In that REST API, I have a method called hello method or data method. That method is secured. That method is secured by using JWT. So first of all, if you want to access my hello method or a data method, you need to have the JWT token. To provide that JWT token, I have here another method called authenticate method. You provide your username and password for authenticate method. It will verify your credentials are valid or not. If your credentials are valid, then token will be generated. It will give the token to you. Then you need to send the request immediately with the token in the request as a bearer token. Your token will be validated. If your token is valid, then request will be processed. Otherwise, request will not be processed. The token contains 3 parts. What are the 3 parts? Header part available, payload part available, signature part is also available. Now, coming to this project, what are the classes that we have created? Okay. In this project, the first class that we have created is our authentication request.java. Authentication request.java, it is used to capture login data, uname and password binder. Okay guys, authentication request, that is a class in the project. That a project contains, that is a binding class basically. You are sending one post request. You are sending one post request with the data, that is username and password. In order to access that data in the form of object, we have taken one class called authentication request. That class having two variables. That is just one binding class. Then after we are having another class called authentication response class. Authentication request, authentication response. This is just having one variable called JWT variable. This is response binder. It is used to send response. This is called request binder. When you are sending a post request with username and password in the request body, that data will be mapped to authentication request.java that contains two variables with the setters and getters. And there is another class available that is called authentication response.java. What is there in authentication response.java? Nothing. One variable is available. That is a string JWT variable. So that is what the response which we are getting. When I go for post request with the body, when I send that request, authenticate, send that. Username and password I'm sending in the request. To bind this data to the request object, we are going for authentication request.java. When we go for this response, this is a variable. That response is coming in the form of binding object that is having one variable. This is request binder and this is response binder. Clear? Next one, the most important class in this project, that is JWT util.java. This JWT util.java contains methods to generate and validate token. This class contains several methods. Those methods are used to generate the token and validate the token. JWT util.java class is available. Let me show you. This is the class. This class contains a method create token and validate token. When it is creating the token, we are setting what is the subject of that payload. In the payload, we will set the subject, expiry time and signature that we are going to specify. So for that, there is a method called create token method is available. Then after, to validate the token, validate token method is available. Is the token expired or not? To verify the token expiry, there is a method available. So this class contains several methods to generate and validate token. Okay. And there is one class available, that is my user details service.java. What is the purpose of this class? To load username, to load user by username. This is a security class. Our user detail service class is implementing user details interface and overriding load user by username method. What is the purpose of this class? For authentication purpose, we need to get the user record. That user record we are returning from this method, load user by username. Okay. So my user detail service.java to load user record by username for authentication purpose. Then along with this, we are having one more class called security configurer class is available. Security configurer.java class is available. This class is used to decide secured URLs, which URLs are secured, which URLs are not secured. Authenticate URL is secured or anybody can access? Come on, man. Security config class. When you go for that, what I am doing here, permit all. Anybody can send the request for authenticate method with the username and password. What about other URLs? What about other URLs? Other URLs are secured. For that, token is required. For authenticate URL pattern, token is not required. For the remaining URL patterns, token is required. So in this class, we are configuring which URLs are secured, for which URLs security not required, and we are configuring authentication manager with user details service. Okay, authentication manager will be available to authenticate our user data. For the authentication manager, I need to tell what is the correct user data. For that, for the authentication manager, I'm going to specify my user details. I'm going to specify my user details for authentication manager. I'm specifying which URLs are secured, which URLs are not secured. Okay. So what is the purpose of the first class? Come on. What is the purpose of first class? Binder class. What data it will bind? Whenever you send first request with the username and password for authentication, that data will be binded to authentication request.java, username and password request binder. Okay. Then what is this authentication response.java? That is used for response binding. Then we are having one class jwtutil.java. What is the purpose of jwtutil.java? That class contains methods to perform token creation and token validation. And we are having one class user detail service. What is the purpose of user detail service.java? That is used to load user record based on the username. Then we are having one more class, security configurer, security configuration class. What is the purpose of security configuration class? Come on. What is the purpose of security configuration class? It is used to specify for which URLs security required, for which URLs security not required. And we are configuring authentication manager to perform authentication. Along with this, another important concept, there is a filter class. What is that? Filter class is available. What is the purpose of this filter? This filter is used for pre-processing of a request. Filter is used for pre-processing of a request. What this filter will do? Whenever a request comes to this method, right? So here I am having two URL patterns in my application. One is authenticate. For this method, what I have given? Permit all. What is the meaning of permit all? Anybody can access this URL pattern that is used for token generation. If we get any other request, then that request will go to my filter. What this filter will do? This filter will check token is coming or not. This is request per filter. For every request which is not belongs to authenticate, then my filter class is going to execute. What that filter will do? That filter will read the data from this authorization header. Bearer token will come with the token text. In the filter, we will have the logic, take token, extract values, validate token. If a token is valid, then process the request. If the token is not valid, then don't process the request. Token validation logic is available in the filter. That filter is request per filter. What is the meaning of request per filter? For every request, that filter will execute. What is the duty of the filter in the project? Pre-processing. Take the request, check that token is available or not. If the token not available, don't process the request. If the token is available, read the token. Then extract the data from the token. Then verify token is valid or not. If the token is valid, check that token is expired or not. If token is expired, don't process the request. If the token is not expired, then only process the request. All that request validation with the token logic will be executed by filter. Now here, when this filter should execute, the filter should execute for every request, or filter should execute only for the requests which are not matching with this URL pattern. Which are not matching with this URL pattern. That means in the security configuration, we need to tell when this filter should execute, because my security filter, my security configuration knows which URLs are secured, which URLs are not secured. So there will be some mapping between the filter and the security configuration. So the filter, whatever we have, let me go for the filter class. JWT request filter. What it is extending? Once per request filter. What is the meaning of that? Filter will execute once per every request. Okay. Now in this filter, we are writing some logic. Do filter internal. What is this logic? Get the authorization header. It will give the request header, that key. It will give the value. In that token is a bearer token. It will start with bearer text. If the token starting with the bearer space, then take only token. Then from the token, extract the username. From that username, load the user record. If that user record, validate the token. If the token is valid, then only set that data to the security context so that request will be processed. Otherwise, request will not be processed. Now, along with these things, request filter class, this is request per filter. Request per filter. Then here, finally, we are having our REST controller.java. Our REST controller, message REST controller, or some user REST controller.java class is available. In this project, these are the classes that we have created. First one, authentication request.java, that is used to bind username and password, which is coming in the post request. Once username and password comes in the post request, username and password will be validated. If username and password is validated, if they are valid, token will be generated, JWT token. That token will be sent as a response by using authentication response.java. Okay. If that is fine, then JWT util.java class will be available. What is the purpose of JWT util.java? That will contain the methods to generate and validate the token. Fine. Then after, we are having one class, my user detail service.java. What is the purpose of my user detail service.java? Which is used to load the user record based on the user name. Then next one, security configurer.java is available. What is the purpose of that? What is the purpose of that? It is used to configure what is authentication manager, how to authenticate the user by using user detail service, for which URLs security is required, for which URLs security not required, we will configure in that. Filter will be available. What is the purpose of the filter? Request per filter. What is the meaning of request per filter? For every request, that filter will be executed. In our application, we configured filter in such a way, whenever request comes for authenticate, filter will not execute. If a request comes for any other URL pattern, then filter will be executed. What is the logic in the filter? Take the header, get the token, authenticate, that means validate the token. If a token valid, process the request. If token not valid, don't process the request. That logic is available in the filter. And here, REST controller is available. In the REST controller, what happened? There is one method, that is normal method, which is having security. Then authenticate method, it will take username and password. Using authentication manager will verify. If it is valid, based on the user, we are going to generate the token. If the token is valid, then only the subsequent request will be processed. Otherwise, subsequent request will not be processed. Okay, you got the concept. what is JWT and how JWT is working. Forget about the code that we can't understand now. First, concept wise, if somebody asks you what is JWT, how JWT will work in the Spring Boot. JWT stands for JSON Web Token, that is used to establish communication between two applications securely. That JSON token will contain three parts: header part, payload part, signature part will be available. So in our REST API, if we want to secure our methods by using JWT, first we need to write one method for authentication. If a client send username and password, if those credentials are valid, then only token will be generated. Token will be given as a response for the first request. Then client will send the actual request in the second attempt along with the token. When the client send the request with the token, my filter will execute. My filter will verify the token is valid or not. If the token is valid, then only request will be processed. Otherwise, request will not be processed. Look at the diagram. When we need to implement this in the project, what we will do? Are you going to by heart the code? Copy paste. I have implemented this in several microservices. I copy pasted that code. Filter class will call this class method only. If you see in my filter, yeah, in the filter, what I am doing, JWT class method only I am calling there. Yeah, if it is valid, then only we will process. Otherwise, we don't process. This is validate token method belongs to JWT class only. So this class filter request for filter will take the token from the header. Then it will call this method to validate. If it is valid, process. Otherwise, don't process. With the UI, whenever you log in with your credentials, if they are valid, token will come as a response. So that means whenever you are making a access for third-party API, in the single method, you need to make two calls. First call for the token, second call with the token. Now, suppose for example, make my trip should access IRCTC. Make my trip will send credentials to the IRCTC in the first request. Then it will give the token. Then make my trip will send passenger data in the request along with the token. If the token is valid, then only ticket booking will happen. Otherwise, ticket booking will not happen. Two calls we need to do. One is to get the token. Second one to process actual data. Look at the diagram, just understand the concept theoretically, how it is happening. What is the execution flow? Here also in the Google, I think we can see some images. Here they have given clear diagram. Whatever. First, browser is available. That is our client application, and server is our application 1 and application 2. Post request, login with username and password. Create a JWT token with the secret. Send the JWT to the client. Then send the JWT on the authorization header. If the token is valid, then request will be processed, response will be sent to the client. So whatever we discussed, everything is represented in very simple diagram. It is easy to understand now. Browser means you consider that as one client application. We can say this is our app 1 and this is our app 2. IRCTC. That's what, na? That's it. Token, they will write it. You just need to send the request to get the token and you give the token to them. That's it. So that's why I did not focus much on that coding part. We just need to send our username and password, get the token, send the token in the request, get the response. That's it. So our development is easy as a client. If you need to implement JWT in our project, then this is the law. That means I am the provider. If I am the provider, then that is the project we have developed. If you are the provider, you should write all these classes. Na? You need to create this class to generate the token, give the token, validate the token process. Whatever the application we have seen, that is provider application. That's it. You need to send the username and password. You will get the token. Token you need to send in the request. That's it. No, you don't need to do anything. Guys, so here now we developed app 1 or app 2. App 2 we have developed. That is used to generate the token. Now if I want to develop app 1, what I need to do? First I need to send the request with the username and password in the body. We will get the token. Then keep the token in the header, send the another request. Then you will get the response. That's it. Client development is very easy. Just you need to send one post request with username and password. You will get the token as a response. With the token, you need to keep that in the header. You need to send the another request. That will give the response for you. Huh? What OTP? That is different. That is not related to security. Yeah. Guys, are you clear? What is OAuth and what is JWT? What is OAuth? OAuth means core Java. What is OAuth? In the real time, most of the applications are having security with OAuth and JWT only. Okay. Fine. So what we have learnt in the security concept, guys? First, what is Spring Security? What is Spring Security? Can you tell me what is Spring Security? That is a module in the Spring framework which is used to implement security in our applications. So it is a module in the Spring framework that is used to secure our applications. Then next one, we understood what is authentication. Okay, what is authentication? verifying the user credentials are valid or not. Then authorization. What is authorization? Which method user can access, which method user cannot access. Based on the roles, we are going to define that. Then basic authentication, basic HTTP authentication we have implemented. Then override default credentials, override default credentials. Then we discussed about in-memory authentication. What is the meaning of in-memory authentication? Storing user credentials in the program, that is called in-memory authentication. Then we discussed about JDBC authentication. What is that? Credentials are stored in the database. How to take it from the database, that we have implemented. Then we discussed about user details service. What is user detail service? What is user detail service? It is used to load user data based on our requirement. In that we are having one method, load user by user name. It will take name as a parameter. It will return user record, load by username, load user by username, load user by username. That's it. Load user by username. User detail service. Okay, it will return user object for authentication purpose. We discussed about authentication manager. Who is authentication manager? The program which is responsible to verify our data is valid or not. It is used to verify our data is valid or not. Okay, so here we discussed about security context, security filter chain. First of all, what is the security filter chain? What is security filter chain? It is used to customize our security. For which URLs security required, for which URLs security not required, which method is accessible for which user role. Everything we are going to customize by using security filter chain. When this method will be called, whenever application loaded, security context will be created with the information given by security filter chain. Whatever the data that is given by security filter chain, that will be configured in the security context. For one application, one security context object will be created. Whenever your application started, when your application started, at that time only it will understand which URLs are secured, which URLs are not secured, which URLs accessible for which user role. Everything will be configured in the security context. Security context will be created when our application is started. Security filter chain will get the data, will give to security context. Then after we discussed about OAuth security, OAuth 2.0. So if you want to access my application using third-party account, then we will go for OAuth security configuration. And we discussed about JWT, JSON Web Token. So what is the JSON Web Token? That will contain three parts: header, payload, and signature. First, client should send a request for the authentication. If the request is authenticated successfully, token will be generated. Token will be sent to the client. Client will send another request with the token. If the token is valid, request will be processed, response will be sent. To verify the token is valid or not, we have created request per filter. So for every request, that filter will be executed. That filter will contain pre-processing logic. Got it? Yes. So these are the topics that we have discussed in the Spring Security. It's a lengthy concept, guys. Yeah. Online students, any question, anyone?
Yeah, hi sir. This is
Yeah,
Sohini
hello.
here. Yeah. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So the thing is, sir, usually in projects like in login means login REST API will be separately working as an microservices, and we
Right.
will be using JWT token, right?
Correct.
Now suppose say I means when we can use that JWT, like while logging from the front end application. So at that time, user ID and password or some our like Citrix token will be sent to our backend like slash authenticate. Okay. So
Right.
by verifying that, it will create a JWT token, right?
Correct.
Now this JWT token we are going to pass it in
Yeah, I understand. Once
yes.
you send the login request, if your credentials are valid, token will be generated. Token will be stored somewhere somewhere in the database. So the token will be sent to the client. When the client is sending the next request, the token will be retrieved and it will be verified. Is it valid or not? Because user may stay a long time on the application. You can store
Okay.
the tokens.
Okay, then that time, how can we set like how much time we need to set?
That depends on the project, right? They may tell you, you need to give 1 minute time for the user or 5 minutes time for the user. Based on the project to project, it will change.
Okay, so that is project requirement. And suppose say we are suppose some user table is there. In that user table, we are getting some users and with some other data that we have authenticate with JWT token, and all the data is coming from that coming from that user table only. So in that
Correct.
case, if I am giving suppose 10 minutes logout time, like 10 minutes the expiration time, then within 10 minutes the front end application should sign out, means it should not work, or it should
session management will be implemented after 10 minutes. Automatically user will be logged out.
Okay, but if user is performing something in the screen, then in that case also it should be logged out, no, right?
No. So session will be expired with the given time. Within the 10 minutes, nothing will happen. If user not done anything in the 10 minutes of time, if user is idle for 10 minutes, then session timeout will happen.
So that will be automatically handled by JWT, or it is browser specific?
UI application should do that. It will not happen by JWT automatically. That is UI application.
Okay, that is UI part.
Yes.
Okay, sir. That was the doubt only. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, someone asked, Narayan, authentication provider will decide from where we are getting the authentication details. It may be user detail service, or it may be JDBC authentication, or it may be in-memory authentication. Authentication provider, nothing but who is providing the details to validate the given form data is correct or not. That is called authentication provider. It may be in-memory authentication provider, JDBC authentication provider, or user detail service. Anything we can consider as authentication provider. Got it? Yeah, perfect.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hi, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Very good evening.
Will you explain that JWT util class in future, or it's over, sir?
We will see that, sir. We'll see that. So you try to go through that, and I will also try to explain this. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sir, whenever we are applying JWT token, so one application is communicating with another application, and if the authentication is successful, and it will get the token.
Yes.
Now we have to send the token again.
Yes.
So for that, it will go automatically, or we have to
We
send.
need to write the code. We need to send in the request header. Why it will go automatically? First, you will send one request. You got the token. In the second request, you need to send the token in the header. It will not go automatically.
Okay, sir. But real time, how it will work, sir? Like I'm not getting the picture exactly.
Yes, I told you that. First, you will make one request. You will get the token. So read this point. When you are making the second request, you need to send the token in the header.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, sir.
You need to build the request with the header. In that header, you need to keep the token and you need to send it.
Okay, sir. And sir, please, sir, give an example of client and another application so we can understand better.
Sure, sure.
Okay, sir.
Sir, Sohini here once again. One more
Yes.
question. This is not related to security, sir. Like, we have read about service registry, Eureka, and admin server, right? So,
Correct.
means what it does in real time. Like service registry, Eureka, you said like it will use the
Service
field line.
registry is a discovery server. If one service want to communicate with another server, easily they can identify by using service name. That is also called as a discovery server, service registry.
Okay.
Admin server, already we discussed, it is for monitoring actuator endpoints of all the services.
In interview they asked like what is the difference, both the things you can, Eureka also you can see your server details, admin also you can.
Both are different, right? Eureka is used for discovery purpose, admin server is used for monitoring purpose. Both are different purposes, not same.
Like they were saying like both the things if we can implement at a once only, what is the need two servers to make our application heavy? So that was the question actually.
You need to explain them clearly. Eureka is used for a discovery, admin server is used for monitoring.
Okay, okay.
Both are having different reasons, right?
Yes, different reasons. That only I said, but they were like we can implement at a once.
No.
Yeah.
Sir, in OAuth, the application we have registered in GitHub, like that in real time also we have to register.
Yes.
If you want to sign in with Google, then we have to register with Google.
In the Google also developer settings, we have to register the application.
Okay, sir. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Hello, sir. This is Kiran.
Yes.
I have heard about the certification file and SSL configuration for the
That
Spring
is different,
security.
sir. For HTTPS security, we will go for the certification.
Okay, so certification file and SSL configuration would be with the same context, right?
Yes. That is HTTPS for the productions. We are going to configure that.
So in this, we will be covering those things also?
No, we are not going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, fine, guys. Good.
Sir, this token is only used for only once, I think.
We can
Twice.
set that. Yeah.
Twice also used one token.
Multiple times until the expiry time, you can use that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Fine, guys. Thank you. We'll continue tomorrow.